Hello, and a very warm welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, I have to be honest and say that I almost didn't make this video simply because I feel that in general, I find that real estate prices in Portugal are very expensive. In particular, when you compare them to countries like Spain and especially Italy, where property is a hell of a lot less expensive than Portugal. However, in 2025, there are still going to be a number of people looking to buy into the Portuguese lifestyle. So I decided to go ahead and make this video anyway. Now, I excluded Lisbon, Cascais, Estoril, the Algarve, and Sintra because all these places are now very expensive when it comes to buying property. Sadly, Porto and Madeira, both places that would have made the top five 2 to 3 years ago, are also expensive at an average of 4,000 and 3,500 euros per square meter, respectively. In Madeira's capital, Funchal, average property prices have reached 4,000 euros per square meter, so definitely not cheap here. Now, another three places I really like, namely Evora, Stubble, and Avera, are also a bit too expensive to make the top five. And of the top five that made the list last year, one place, namely Figueira da Foz, has dropped out. Prices a year ago were averaging 1,500 euros per square meter. They are now currently nearly 2,000 euros per square meter on average. So that is a big increase over the last year or so and has made it a lot less affordable to buy property in. Anyway, here are my top five places to buy real estate in Portugal. And please let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my choices and why. So, coming in at number five is Braga. Now, situated northeast of Portugal, Braga is a lovely, underrated city. It is a city that has many beautiful churches and ancient buildings from different eras. Braga is about an hour away from Porto by train and is a university city and hence has a youthful population. The population is also growing steadily, and Braga is a city quite densely populated, so this should help prevent a housing market crash in the future. Now, as a city which has a good standard of living and very good medical facilities, it has drawn in quite a few digital nomads and, of course, retirees. And although Braga does not feel like a big city if you visit it, there are plenty of things happening here, such as food and film festivals and a football team that plays in the top tier of Portuguese football. Now, there are also plenty of eateries and places to have a drink, and the transportation is good with plenty of buses running within the city and a railway station with a high speed rail connection. Now, the nearest airport is Porto, about 50 kilometers or so away. So that's not bad if you're coming in from abroad. Now, last year, Braga also came in fifth place. And even though prices have now gone above 2,500 euros per square meter on average, they are still a lot cheaper than many parts of Portugal. But that said, there are no bargains here. If you think of Braga now, it only has to be a lifestyle purchase. As with other parts of Portugal, prices are no longer cheap. Now, coming in at number four is Guimaraes. Now, located about 60 kilometers from Porto and with the whole historical centre designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Guimaraes last year came in first place. At that time, average property prices were under 1,500 euros per square meter. That has now all changed, and they now are around 1,800 euros per square meter on average. And this is the reason Guimarães has dropped from first to fourth place. That said, real estate prices by Portuguese standards anyway are still quite reasonable. So for me, it still deserves a position in the top five. And Guimarães as a city has a youthful feel, not least because its university attracts Erasmus students from all over Europe. There are many advantages of living in this city. such as good medical facilities, including two public hospitals, a private hospital, and other clinics as well. And it also has nice parks in and around the city. It's also got a football team called Vitória that plays in the top tier of Portuguese football. And it's got plenty of good restaurants as well. In fact, many people consider Guimaraes a culinary delight. And transport wise, there is a good bus network within the city, and there is a train station with a direct connection to Porto. And the nearest airport is, of course, Porto. And one other thing I would like to add is that the city is very walkable indeed. A couple of downsides, though. The winters are not great here. They can be rainy and cold. And also, many people do consider Guimarães as an industrial city, although I think this is a little unfair. Anyway, coming in at number three is Coimbra. Now, located in the center of Portugal, Coimbra is a beautiful medieval city. It is chiefly known for its university, which is one of the oldest in Portugal and is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Coimbra has a lot to offer. It has many monasteries and churches, as well as some lovely parks to spend some quality time in. Now, being a university city, there is plenty of life within the city, and Coimbra has student festivals, concerts, and there are football, rugby, volleyball, and basketball clubs that represent the city. There are plenty of places to eat and drink, and as said, being a student city, the nightlife is good as well. Medical facilities are good too. And transport wise, Coimbra has an extensive bus network as well. And it's got a high speed rail link to both Lisbon and Porto. And the nearest airport is Porto, about 130 kilometers away. So it is quite distant. Now, if you want to get to the coast, it is about an hour's drive away. Now, although property has been on the rise and property is more expensive than a year ago at nearly 2,300 euros per square meter on average. Price increases have not been as steep as many parts of Portugal. Last year, they were averaging around 2,100 euros per square meter. So I think it's mainly because of this that Coimbra has gone up from last year being in fourth place to this year being in third place. Again, a couple of disadvantages. It's a fairly long way to a main airport and a bit of a way to get to the coast as well. Anyway, coming in at number two, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, is Santarem. Now, I'm sure many of you watching this video will not have heard of Santarem, but this small city of just under 30,000 inhabitants, located in central Portugal, has a lovely and charming historic centre. The city offers a mixture of historical charm and modern facilities, and the city is known for its rich Gothic architecture with many lovely churches and monasteries. It has good educational facilities, in particular Polytechnic Institute of Santarem, which attracts students from across the country. There is also a hospital here, and transport wise, there are regular trains which take you to Lisbon. Although, from memory, the station is about a 20 or 25-minute walk from the centre. But many train journeys take only 40 minutes to Lisbon. And there is also a bus from the city centre that takes you to Lisbon in roughly, I believe, about an hour or so. And for those of you who want, I think, to live in a Portuguese city where there are not many expats or tourists, Santarem could be a good option. And I think property prices here are quite cheap at an average of less than 1,400 euros per square meter. And this is chiefly why Santarem has come in second position. Last year, it was not even in the top five. And the only downside for me is that here it can get really, really hot in the summer. So we are talking about 40 degrees. Although in about an hour or so, you can drive to the beach, but it does get really, really, really hot in the summer. So bear that in mind. Now, coming in At number one are, wait for it, the Azores. Now, the Azores consists of 9 major islands in 3 different groups, dominated by São Miguel, which is by far the biggest and also has well over half the population of the Azores. So, this is where most people will purchase property. The Azores, as I've stated in previous videos, has a good business environment. Moreover, the Azores is a very safe place to live, and crime is almost unheard of. And the cost of living here is lower than the mainland and Madeira, and there is not too much traffic like in larger cities in Portugal. Now, from the main airport in Ponta Delgada, you can fly to London, Madrid, Barcelona, Milan, Zurich, Paris, Brussels, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Prague in Europe. You can also fly to New York, Boston, Montreal, and I believe Toronto in North America. Although I have to say, though, some flights here are seasonal. Now, in the last year or so, prices have gone up, but when compared to Madeira, prices are still very reasonable. Now, on São Miguel, they average around 2,100 euros per square meter. And in the capital, Ponta Delgada, they average just over 2,300 euros per square meter, which, when compared to Funchal, which is the capital of Madeira, they're a hell of a lot cheaper. So we are talking about 4,000 euros per square meter compared to 2,300 euros per square meter. A hell of a difference. There are, of course, some downsides to the Azores in that some people may find them a little remote, and quite often the weather can be quite cloudy here as well. However, I still think um, the Azores are worth consideration when it comes to buying real estate in Portugal. I think prices here, although they're not as cheap as they were a number of years ago, they are, I think, still fairly reasonable by Portuguese standards. Anyway, please let me know if you agree or disagree. And that's it for today. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I shall see you very soon on the next video.